Yes, you're still watching TVC Breakfast. We now go to this very, very important conversation. Now, a proposal to limit presidents and governors to a single 6-year term is gaining attention at the National Assembly. Senate leader Okoyemi Bamidele says he plans to sponsor legislation to make it actually a reality. He argues that the current two-term structure often distracts leaders from governance as attention shifts to securing second mandates. Now, the proposal is expected to spark fresh constitutional debate, with supporters citing better governance and critics insisting voters should retain the power to either renew or end a leader's tenure at the ballot box. Now, joining us for this conversation is UK solicitor and politician, Mr. Femi Aina. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Now,
this is the conversation that we're going to be having. So, some people are backing it and some people are against it. For the people backing it, they're saying that it reduces the pressure of re-election and campaigns. It allows leaders to focus more on governance than rather re-election. And some people are saying that a 6-year term is also a long time if a leader performs poorly, which is also very important. And people are also saying that they will lose the opportunity to reward a good leader for his performance. So it's a very dicey conversation. But we have countries that practice this. Talk about Togo, talk about Mexico. We have countries that, and some other countries that actually practice single term. But for a country like Nigeria, I know at some point Obasanjo tried, this as well, but it didn't go through. For a country as Nigeria, do you think that we can have national development? I'm talking about big developments under, just having a single term of 6 years. What do you think is going to do for our democracy as well?
Well, it's a good development.
You think?
Yes. And again, another thing you need to take into account is that it's a very patriotic move. Just for someone to say, okay, let's have a single term. And the point is this, and that's something we need to take into account. This proposal by the majority leader, you need to ask the question, why now? Why not before? We have toyed with the idea. President Jonathan, when he was in office, he moved the idea that we should have a single 6-year term. There were a lot of hue and cry. It was abandoned. Thereafter, there was Sovereign National Conference, and this idea was actually debated. But the government in power, they didn't, the proposal or whatever that came out of that sovereign was abandoned. Now, the question is this. It is not the term that determines performance. You can even have a brief term and make a meaningful impact on people's life. And if you read Peter Obi's statement, when he said we only serve one term, Abraham Lincoln was the president of America. He spent only one term. John F. Kennedy did not even finish his own term. Nelson Mandela chose only one term. And all these people, up till now, their legacy lives on. Now, in Kenya, President Arap Moi was in power from 1978 until 2003. It was when the legislature in that country said, look, you cannot contest election again. Because African leaders, they want to stay in power until in perpetuity. Because in perpetuity, sorry, my word. Now, and the reason being, because loss of office is loss of face. And again, some of them seeing losing an election as a disgrace. Take, for instance, in Cameroon now, we have a president who has been there from time immemorial. And there's a possibility he's going to die in office.
That's right.
Now, in Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe was there for a very long time. So if you come back home, considering the nature of our country, we have about 250 ethnic groups, and at the same time, there's a division along the religious line, ethnic line, and so many problems. So if we have a single term, it will help, because this present 4 term doesn't work. It's not 4 term in the real sense of it, because the governor comes to office to spend 4 years. The first 3 years they will perform. The last 1 year of that 4 year, they are seeking re-election. They are looking for successor, and at the end of the day, you will realize that nothing comes out of it. And the presidential system of government which we are running, is consuming a lot of our annual budget at all levels. It's about 80%. It is only 20% that is left on capital projects. So if we have a situation whereby we have a president who will spend only one term of 6 years, then there is a possibility they will be more focused. But what we need to do, in order to bring that to life, we should have a zoning arrangement whereby power can rotate between the various ethnic groups we have in the country.
Right.
Because there's another point which you need to take. You see, if you don't embrace equal opportunity, there's going to be mistrust. And if that mistrust is not well managed, what is going to happen in the long run is that there's going to be violence.
Absolutely.
And it is therefore very important that this should be considered. But my own concern is this. You need to ask the majority leader, why is he coming up with this proposal at this particular time when we are more or less in an election season? Because if this comes to fruition, we are going to go back to what happened during the Obasanjo regime. Because let's look at it hypothetically. Number one, there's going to be, the current president is going to face an election in January. Okay? Now, this proposal has to come in form of a bill to the House. There's going to be a public hearing, there will be committee hearing, and you will need to amend the Constitution. And to amend the Constitution of Nigeria, all the 36 states of the Federation has to participate. Now, let's say for one reason or the other, that's the law comes into effect.
Yeah.
Receive the presidential asset in December, that, okay, we should have a single 6-year term. Now, there will be an election in January. The new president will take out of office. If the current president wins that election, that means he's going to spend 6 years in office rather than 4 years. So people are going to start reading meanings to it. So I think it's better to put this on hold for now until after the election. So the commencement date will be in 2031. Otherwise, people are saying you are only doing this because you, who is moving the proposal, you are in the same party with the present president. And there will be a lot of issues.
Absolutely. But then if you look at the implementation of this, they're actually looking at, post-2027 implementation, which is intentionally structured to be introduced after 2027 polls to avoid altering immediate political framework or affecting current terms. And you also said earlier that at a point in time they talked about it, they jettisoned it, but you are also now advising them to just at least hold on, don't talk about it yet. When you were talking about presidents who were there for a long time, who perpetuated themselves in power and did woefully well, you didn't mention those who did well. At least we have the benevolent dictator Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. He spent several amount of years as the prime minister, and he did very, very well. We talk about it. In fact, taking that country from third world to first world. We also have even the current Russian president, Vladimir Putin. We see how much he has introduced in terms of technology, in terms of science and all of that, and development. And we know how strong Russia is after Soviet Union as a superpower. We also
Mahathir of Malaysia,
Mao Zedong. We also have that of China as well. The current, Xi Jinping, who has been there for a long time. But we have a country like Venezuela that they don't even have term limits. Right, and we see how the country has been. So even Gaddafi ruled for close to 40 years, and he did very well in Libya until US destroyed that country, after killing him. But how do you approach this matter in looking at it from the angle that the concern of what political scientists call lame duck effect, where if a president or governor knows from day one that re-election is impossible, what guarantees are there that they will not remain responsive to public opinion throughout the entire 6 years?
You need to look at the peculiarity of those countries. You've talked about Malaysia, you've talked of China, you've talked of all other countries. But let us look at our own peculiarities. This is a country with about 250 ethnic groups. And this is a country whereby we are divided along so many lines. And you see, point is this: you are talking about President Putin having done this, having done that. But at the same time, there's still another side to it. too. If you talk to some Russians, they will tell you, look, because he's been there for such a long time, now dictatorship and what have you is creeping in. So what I'm trying to say is this. The Nigerian peculiarity, we must have a situation whereby we give various ethnic groups an opportunity. The late president was an Hausa Fulani person. We have a Yoruba president now. I would love a Nigeria whereby the next president is an Igbo person, and then later power will reverse. Yeah, because if you don't,
sorry, quickly, but you know that's what we're talking about yesterday when we talk about this zoning thing. It shouldn't be about where the person should be from next, or if the person is capable or not. So we also need to look at it in that aspect.
Yes,
because from what you're saying, it seems like it's my turn, but it's not about turn, it's about capacity.
Your point to the capability is very important, but each zones who are presenting a candidate will look for somebody who is very capable.
But what if they don't have?
Because look, they don't say, why wouldn't they have? Because don't forget, there are people, you see, you have to be careful of ethnic dominance. And if we are not careful, Nigeria is a pluralistic society. Okay, because we have diverse background, diverse this, and this is supposed constitutionally. Nigeria is a secular state. Okay, but we need to ensure that we give everybody opportunity. Do you want a Nigeria whereby anybody who wants to be president must be a man? Then if care is not taken, that means it's gender discrimination. So the point I'm trying to make is that, look, if we have a single term and we have a zoning arrangement where power can move around, that will help our development. And also, at the same time, because you see, you're talking about capability. If you look at some of our leaders, I'm sorry to say, some of them are very weak when it comes to taking decisions. Look at what is going on now. There is insecurity in the land. There is palpable fear in the land.
But the president has been pulling his weight as well.
Nobody is saying the president is not doing something. But you see, as a leader, you must be able to take a decision. Some of your decisions might be very harsh.
Exactly, which you did with subsidy as well.
Yes, I take your point with FIFA pass subsidy. The present situation, look, as we speak, there are children in captivity. But we can't have a leader who will say, look, enough is enough. You'll be negotiating with these people. They are playing hide and seek. Now, move. Look at what happened during when Obama was the president. All the security chiefs and the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, they sat down, showing him the film that, look, this is where Osama bin Laden is, this is how we're going to do. And they said something that, okay, let me go and sleep over it. By the time he got to his bedroom, he called them and said, damn it. Because you see,
but these are two very different cases.
Look, why those children?
Very different cases.
Now, it's not different. Because these children who are in captivity now, for the last 20-something days or 30 days, we've been talking, somebody's been talking to them, the terrorists are making unnecessary ransom. But at a point, somebody needs to say, look, enough is enough.
Barrister Femi Aina,
yes.
I'm glad you raised the issue of the Americans under Obama. But you need to go a bit backward and a bit forward.
Yes.
A bit backward, what happened when Jimmy Carter was in office and some Americans were held hostage in the American embassy by Iran.
Yes.
And America tried to go and forcefully rescue them. And we saw what happened with the helicopters. They were down. It became a total disaster and destroyed Jimmy Carter's regime.
Yes.
Now, that's in the past. You move forward. We have the issue of Kwashem Kag Island. The Americans have expressed their desire to actually move in, amassed more than 60,000 troops, enormous resources, in that area, including platforms, aerial and naval platform. But they've not been able to do it again because they had to think carefully around this thing because it will lead to huge loss of manpower and a disaster. So if you say it's relevant, I'm trying to call your attention to those two.
Yes.
That it's not as easy as we think about it. When you look at the issue of the security, the issue of the victims, not just children, there are also adults. So they're not just school children. The victims who are in captivity currently, you will realize that they have actually planted IED improvised explosive device, to stop our military from grabbing them. The military would have resolved this problem a long time ago. But they have to be sensitive about the loss of manpower and then avoiding casualties. Nobody would, we want all the children and the teachers to be rescued.
Whereas they also rescued 360 of those in captivity recently. So meaning they are doing something.
They are doing something. And even recently, it's been reported, Nigeria with American soldiers, they've been able to neutralize 200 ISWAP fighters. So something is being done. On the issue of it, but I understand the emotions around the fact that it's gone viral and it's gone global. The truth of the matter is we do not want, if it's wiping them off, Nigerian military can wipe them off today, within an hour. But what happens to the victims? Will that be a succor, to the families? And that's what I think the president is thinking about. That look, whatever it is, let us see how best we can resolve this without negotiating with terrorists, without paying ransom, and then
jeopardizing the lives of
the victims. So that's that.
But I take your point, but I want you to take my point too. Procrastination.
It's not procrastination.
No.
It could be a strategy. Okay, let me give you a good example. I don't know what the military, I don't know what they're doing.
Yes.
Have you thought about the fact that some people have been arrested? I think 5 people who are acting as supporting the logistics, supplying food and other things. Have you thought about the situation that maybe, I don't know, because security issue, we have to be extremely careful, not also to say things that will help the terrorists. The military could be waiting, for instance, to get their logistics, the food supply to run out. Before we don't know. There are a lot of things we don't know because we have to be careful around military issues, not to end up aiding these criminals who, in any case, seems to be either listening to news or reading newspapers. We don't know. So they know exactly what is going on. That's why they got the principal, to now come and make a response.
All right. I will concede the position in order not to get into a circular argument.
Yeah.
But there's something I really want you to cast your mind back. Since the advent of this democracy we're enjoying, how many governors have been able to sign the death warrant?
That's a challenge to the governors.
This is the point. Because you see, criminals' loyalty are to themselves. And we need to send a message to these criminals.
The question is why?
Look, about 4 terrorists, I think they were sentenced to death by hanging last few weeks. But the judge did not say that hanging must happen within 10 days. No, and the reason being, because you see, this is where we have a problem. Those terrorists, Tomty tell them, we will go to Court of Appeal. From Court of Appeal, they will go to Supreme Court. By the time they do finish all that, 6 years, 7 years down the line, they are still there. At a point, all of us, because Nigeria has a quick to forget mentality, we will forget about it. Look, this is where our leaders, you see, a drastic disease deserves a drastic action. This is where our leaders must come and say, look, if you are arrested for kidnapping or what is called a heinous crime that goes against public interest, once you finish at the lower court, any appeal should leapfrog to the Supreme Court. And once the judge sentences you to death, the judge must have the power to say that execution must happen within certain time. And you will recall, you know this, Mr. Chumi, during the military regime, Oyenusi was executed, Anini was executed.
But did it lead to a decline in armed robbery? Barrister Femi Aina, please, we need to understand why. Why is it that governors are refusing to sign the death warrant?
Yes,
I know you are a barrister, you know the famous saying of Lord Denning, that it is better for 9 guilty people to get away than for 1 innocent person to be killed. Now, in this era of miscarriage of justice, just less than a week ago, a man was freed who was sentenced to death, and was later due to the issue of biometric identification and all that. They now later realize that the man did not commit the offense. That is why many governors, it's not just about human rights groups and civil society organizations against it. The last governor that signed the death warrant in Nigeria was Adams Oshiomhole towards the tail end of his government as governor.
Yes.
Now, what happened if eventually we realize that somebody who has been executed, ended up being found innocent?
So what happens when the person
advancement of science?
What happens when the person said, "Yes, I'm guilty of this crime"?
Yeah. That's another
Look,
thing.
I'm not defending it. What I'm saying is there are reasons why governors are very, very reluctant. Look, what's the difference from sentencing people to life in jail? Go and spend the rest of your life in jail.
But this particular one, I would agree with
With
him
no
because
option of parole.
oftentimes we've said that these people have become very audacious.
Yes.
I believe that if there are strict measures given to these people, that if you are caught, you will be executed. It's something that may reduce.
And also we need to fast track their trial. To avoid,
because we know that our judicial system is slow.
I don't know where you are coming. We can't say because there will be a miscarriage of justice. What of those who have had the opportunity of going to Supreme Court, and at the end of the day, the court said, no, you are guilty of the offense, and the execution must take place. You see, because you will recall something. In those days when Yenusi and Nini, all of them, your mother will buy the photograph, call you inside the room and show you that, look, you have to be very careful. Do not steal, do not do this. Absolutely. This is what happened. Yeah. That can help you to behave yourself. You understand? Because you see, if we turn around and say, okay, possibly there will be, even in the advanced world, there are occasionally whereby new evidence will come to light. Somebody who has been convicted will be free. That's because advancement of technology and what have you. But why these criminals are having a field day? Because some of our leaders don't have the willpower in order to deal with them in a very robust manner. And now we have parliament. Parliament can say, look, if you are caught kidnapping children or receiving ransom, after receiving the ransom and you kill the victim, then we will fast track your trial. And any appeal must go to the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. And once Supreme Court finds you guilty, they must give a timeline by which the execution must take place. Even in United Kingdom, if you are sentenced to a period of life imprisonment, the judge has the power to give a tariff that you must serve 27 years before they even consider you for parole. And that sends a very big signal to some of the criminals that, look, with this, you are going to spend 35 years. There are some, the judge will say they must die in prison. Because when you look at the circumstances. So, you see, whether we have single term, we have 4 years term, it is neither here or there. The issue is this. When we have a situation at hand, we must take a robust approach and make sure we deal with that situation. And some of these criminals, until we try as much as possible and make an example of some of them and make sure they are not playing the system. Because they are playing the system, when they lodge an appeal at the Court of Appeal, that will take a number of years before the matter.
Let me quickly chip this in because of our time, because we have less than 2 minutes to talk about. It is not. We essentially changed the conversation, but everything is intertwined. It's not the first time, as you said, that we've been debating single-term democracy. And previous attempts seem to have, faced that legal hurdle and all of that. But now that the Senate is now saying, okay, we are considering it, as long as we are also considering, state policing. What hurdles do you foresee to be to this latest proposal facing, both politically and constitutionally? Do you feel that this might be facing some legal hurdles?
There will be a lot of hurdles because anytime there's an attempt to amend the constitution in Nigeria, people always revolt. You will recall sometimes ago, I think that was during the Jonathan regime or so, and they came to Lagos, there was a public hearing. And then some people just went there and said, no, don't amend the constitution. You are doing this for your parochial interests and what have you. So there'll be a lot of hurdles because especially in a pluralistic society where we have various political parties among the legislature, there are people, that's why I've told you earlier, there are people who will read ministries that, look, why now? And now, this is we are in a season and the election is coming up early next year. Now, some of the legislators are trying to seek a re-election into parliament. They will need to go out, meet the electorate and campaign. At the same time, they are the same people who we need to move around the whole 36 of the Constitution in order to amend the
bill is
Constitution.
expected to be debated after election.
See, that will be, it is better that way, because if this is debated before the election, or if it comes into be, people are going to read meaning that you are trying to elongate the tenure.
Exactly, but I even think it's
president.
not even about the longevity, it's about the delivery. At the end of the day, during your time, what can you do to make sure that the people are secure and safe? What can you do in terms of national development? Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. It's been fantastic having you on the show. Always great insights, very passionate. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again very soon.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Still, I love the argument between, it was so heated. I was feeling the heat from here.